What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. As y'all might be able to tell, I'm actually standing up today. I got a new desk for Black Friday and everything. It's one of these electric ones that goes up and down. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, we got some NBA stuff to talk about. I just had this article appear on my, just like on my phone. It gave me a little alert, right, for Bleacher Report. It said NBA's biggest winners and losers after 1 month. And I do think it's an appropriate time, right? It's been about a month into the season. We're starting to see things now, or connections or relations and stuff that we can actually dive deep into and say, okay, who is winning and losing so far in the NBA season? Who's for real and who isn't? This article was written by Andy Bailey, so go check them out. It gives me something to talk to. So yeah, I really appreciate it. The first one, losers, Memphis Grizzlies. That doesn't surprise me at all. Before I even go down and read it, obviously Ja Morant being out for, what is it, it's 25 games this year. That was already going to make it really hard for the Grizzlies to be good because they're stuck with Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson being their best two players, who are very good players, but they're not really all-star quality players. Their stats are going to be inflated because Ja Morant's not there, right? And there's only so much you can do without your stud in Ja Morant. They also lost Steven Adams to injuries early on, which is just detrimental to them because they already didn't have Brandon Clark because of an Achilles injury. So they are very, very, very weak at center. Just looking at what Andy actually wrote here, yeah, talking about Ja Morant, Brandon Clark. Yeah, also the season injuries to like Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, Xavier Tillman. Like Xavier Tillman's not an elite player by any means, but I mean, it was another big on the team. They've since went and picked up like Bismack Biyombo, who's actually been pretty solid for them because Bismack Biyombo just does the same thing on every single team. He gets a shit ton of rebounds, he blocks a lot of shots, and he dunks the basketball. He doesn't do it as well as like a Clint Capella or something like that, but I mean, he'll get you like 16 rebounds in a game if you leave him out there long enough. I think what we've seen with Desmond Bane so far this year has been awesome. He's getting you like 23, 24 points a game right now. Jaren Jackson, as I said, have had his moments. He just like, for a defensive player of the year, he just fouls all the time, and it's so frustrating. He honestly just hasn't been playing well since Team USA. If I remember correctly, he's shooting less than like 30% at the time of recording this from three. And so, you know, if you don't have elite defense because he's not on the court enough due to foul trouble and he's not hitting the threes, Jaren Jackson's not very useful to you. All right, the first winner that we have is the Orlando Magic and the Houston Rockets. I'm curious to see why we think the Houston Rockets are such winners. Talk about the Magic first since they're first on here. The Magic are like the number 2 defense at the time of recording this right now, which is awesome. I think it's important for young teams to identify what their identity is going to be early on, right? You've probably heard a couple other people talk about this, right? They've really figured out their defense. They started off the season pretty poor last year. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were like dead last for a little bit. But they ended up winning like 30-something games or something, which is respectable, which means they had a good back half of the season. And a lot of that was because their defense kind of started to figure itself out by the end of the year. Obviously, we got to give credit to their 2 young guys, Banchero and Franz Wagner, who are each respectively getting you about 20 a game right now, which for your young core, you love to see that. You also have Cole Anthony assuming the role of sixth man, who I believe he gets like 15, 16 points a game right now as well. That's the ideal role for him, right? He's a scorer. That's what he does. Have him be the scoring point guard off the bench. I love when teams have like a go-to guard off the bench that can go get him some buckets. Other things worth noting, their other guards like Markelle Fultz, Anthony Black, and especially Jalen Suggs have been elite defensively. You absolutely love to see it. Jonathan Isaac, shout out to him being able to play and everything. Happy he's back on the court. He's playing elite defense. Wendell Carter hasn't even been there most of the season, and he's their starting center, and he's a good defender. It says here that the Magic are currently on pace to win 56 games, which that would be incredible, especially after Patrick Beverley was like chirping him on his podcast or whatever, saying like, oh, these guys are top 50 players. Why don't y'all win any games? That'd be hilarious if they went and do that. But yeah, no, it's great because Orlando has never seen like internal development since I've been growing up. Like they're always towards the bottom. They draft these dudes that don't really turn into anything all that special. They don't achieve a ton of potential, and there's just no development being shown. It's cool to see guys like Wagner and Banchero getting better, and like Jalen Suggs, while maybe not worth the 4th overall pick, is starting to show like, hey, this is why he is in the NBA. All right, so let's take a look at what they have to say about the Rockets. Yeah, they accelerated their rebuild, bringing in the veterans. I loved the Rockets offseason, by the way. I hated the roster they had the past couple years. I hate when teams just have all of these young guys. They don't bring any vets onto the team. I can't stress how important it is, like when I was in college basketball, that you need seniors and juniors to teach the freshmen. And the same principle applies in the NBA, and probably even more so, because you don't have to like go to class and you don't have teachers telling you what to do throughout the day. When you get to the league, you need those guys to keep them straight, keep them like learning, things like that, right? There's so many little nuances to the game that these guys need to learn. So bring in the Fred Van Vliets, the Dylan Brooks. They brought in Ime Udoka, who's a great coach, obviously. Like, you needed guys like that so that Şengün, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, right? So that, and Amen Thompson, who's a phenomenal basketball mind already, like, so that these guys can grow. It says here that Şengün is leading them in scoring and putting up Sabonis like assist numbers. Is that true? Well, shit, look at this. 20 points, 6 assists. I knew he was having a good year, but I didn't realize it was that good. That's awesome. Getting 32% from 3 as well. Not great by any means, but showing some life from there, taking about 2 a game. We love to see it. Also, question of the day, is Şengün like low-key really bouncy? I had a talk with some of my buds back home about this I used to play AAU with. He's got so many crazy dunks, but he doesn't look like he's going to take off ever. And all of a sudden, he's just like at the rim putting people in it. So, question of the day is Şengün like sneaky bouncy? All right, next one, losers, Draymond Green and much of the rest of Steph Curry's supporting cast. So yeah, it's been a rough start to the Warriors season, obviously with Draymond choking out Rudy Gobert. I'm sure they've been missing having his versatility on the court. But obviously, Steph Curry's been amazing. Everybody else has been less than stellar. So I can tend to agree for the most part with this, much of the rest of the supporting cast notion. The first thing I think about is Klay Thompson's only getting you about 15, 16 a game. His efficiency, while solid for an NBA player, isn't up to his standards. You do have to wonder if Klay Thompson's starting to fall off a little bit. He does have quite a few injuries under his belt, and, he is pretty mobile. So, unfortunately, I don't want to think that, but that's where the logic tells me. Chris Paul hasn't been very efficient so far this year either. He looks like he fits in great with the offense. He's just not necessarily hitting the shots. So I'd like to think that him and Klay can both kind of bump things up a little bit, but you don't know, right? They are old. Eventually, they're going to fall off. You look at other young guys like Moses Moody, Kuminga. They haven't been the most effective. They are young, so there's room to grow. So you'd like to think that maybe Kuminga would have taken a little bit of a leap this year, but he hasn't quite found it. He's certainly been more aggressive. I've seen him taking a lot more opportunities of getting to the rim. I think his finishing around the rim is great, but how much more is he going to develop? The two guys I think that have been very interesting for them, though, are Saric. Obviously, we see a lot of Saric out there. He gives them a different look whenever they take Kevon Looney out, where Looney's a lot of a defender. He's in drop a lot of times, right? He's switching onto people. He's getting rebounds. Sarge is out there spacing the floor and being a little more offensive focus for them at the center, and he's been pretty effective for them. He's had some good games recently where he's getting you like 20-plus points, and he's hitting his shot. The other one is Podziemski. I'm sorry that I can't remember how to say his name. BP, we'll call him. The rookie out of Santa Clara, I believe he is, the point guard. Obviously not a position that they necessarily need a lot of help at the moment, but I love his effort. I think he plays the game really smart, and I think in like a year or two, he is going to be a very effective player for them. I'm willing to think that the Warriors are probably going to figure things out. It'll be nice when they get Draymond back, but like I said, you do have to wonder where their ceiling is. Oh yeah, and let's talk about Andrew Wiggins. I just see him in here. Yeah, he's been pretty rough to start this year, which is kind of interesting. Like, because his game is usually pretty consistent throughout his career. So hopefully he kind of starts to claw it back in, but who knows? Winner, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and much of his supporting cast. So yeah, in stark contrast to the Golden State Warriors, we have a new team of studs that are starting to come together. So let's start with the obvious one. Shai is phenomenal. Shai's your number one guy. He's probably going to be in some sort of MVP talks. To what extent, I don't know. But is he probably in the top 5 for that? 100%. Then let's look at the rest of this supporting cast here. One guy in particular is being left off the picture. We'll touch on that in a second. But Chet Holmgren has been phenomenal to start his rookie year, getting you 18 points a game. He's the defensive center that they've needed so far. And I'll be the first to say I wasn't big on Chet coming out of college. I thought that he could be a good defender, but I didn't think he'd be this good of an offensive player right away. I think a lot of the weaknesses that he had coming into the league involved like his ability to handle the ball a little bit, see the passing lanes and stuff. And I feel like he's had a better feel for the game in general. And obviously he's just a mean motherfucker, man. Like, and I mean that in the best way possible, man. You need dudes like that on your team. I would always love recruiting kids like that are just like they just know they're that dude or whatever. You need guys like that on your team. Talking about Jalen Williams now in his second year, he's been phenomenal. Can we just give credit to the OKC Thunder having all these draft picks and like all of them are just kind of working too? Like people said, oh, they only have to hit on like 1 out of every 5 of their draft picks and they're good to go. They're hitting on all of them. J-Dub's already getting you like 17 points a game. He's an effective like second scoring option on this team. And then Lou Dort, the Dortcher chamber. People said he's such an elite defender. If he can shoot, he's got it all, and he can shoot now. It's amazing. He's currently taking like 4.5 threes a game, and he's hitting above 40% of them. So you combine that with like Isaiah Joe, who we've talked about in some of our like underappreciated players videos. You should go check those out. Isaiah Joe's just such an elite shooter. He's shooting like 50% from 3. It's nuts. And that's what he's out there to do. Space the floor for all these other guys who like to have the rock in their hands. And we'll touch a little bit on Josh Giddey. Not going to go too far into it. Obviously won't speculate and everything. Josh Giddey's a very good basketball player. We'll see what happens with him off the court, and that's where we're going to leave that one. One of the other things to look at is their actual rookie this year of Cason Wallace. Because he doesn't, for a point guard, get to have the ball a ton, which is kind of a good thing for a rookie point guard. Being a rookie point guard is the hardest thing in the NBA, I feel like, because there's so much adjusting to speed and everything, and you got to control the offense as a point guard. But, you know, he's gotten to pass off a lot of those ball handling duties to like Shea, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, guys like that, and he's gotten to play a lot of off ball, to which he's shot very effectively. He's gotten to the rim pretty effectively. He's played pretty good off ball. He's playing solid defense. He's not getting a lot of turnovers. He's just fitting in, right? Which is honestly a lot of what you want out of a rookie is like, hey, you don't need to make the biggest impact right away. You're not messing anything up when you come in the game. You're going to have a role in this team going forward. Losers. I should have known that this one was coming up. The Chicago Bulls Big Three. All right, y'all, prepare for a Bulls fan to be sad again. Yeah, this first statement here says it all. To most outside observers, the Chicago Bulls need to break up this Big Three of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. Yeah, so funny enough, I think this Big Three, if you will, is probably one of the best offensive big threes in the NBA. The problem is they don't fit together. I didn't understand it when they first did it. I was excited that the Bulls were trying to win again, and I was excited they were making moves, and I love these players individually. I just don't love them on the same team. You know, the numbers didn't say that they were bad necessarily together before, but this year, minus 18, you can see on there, almost minus 19 so far per 100 possessions. No, it doesn't work. That's honestly probably where it should be. Vucevic isn't a good enough defender to supplement these two being probably like average defenders. Actually, I think Zach LaVine is a really, really good off-ball defender. He's about average now as an on-ball defender. So you take that, and I think Zach LaVine's awesome. But why is Kobe White starting with these guys? Why do we have another just scorer? He should be in the Cole Anthony role. He's a scorer off the bench. Patrick Williams doesn't even do anything out there anymore. I miss Javonte Green. He was like my favorite player on the team. Drummond's just out there being goofy half the time, and like Ayo Dosunmu should be getting more minutes. Javon Carter should be getting more minutes. There's so many point guards on this team. I just trade them all. I don't care about anybody on this team enough to keep them. And I shouldn't say that because they're good basketball players and I like them all. It's just, as a Bulls fan, just start over for me. Give me something new. We don't have the draft picks that we're supposed to have and everything. It's a disaster. It's just a disaster. Move them all on. What kind of picks can we get for them? Next winter, the Minnesota Timberwolves front office. Those boys just might get to keep their job yet. And I don't even think they're doing that good of a job. So obviously the Rudy Gobert trade after last season, everybody was like, this might be one of the worst trades ever. And I've said before, I think at the time, I wasn't like that. I wasn't that like blown away by it. I was like, Rudy Gobert is probably the best defensive player of this generation. I don't think it's a probably either. He kind of just is. When Rudy Gobert is on the court, your team's elite defensively. That's just how it is because you can't go in the paint with him there. And I figured, Cat will be a better defender when he's off ball, so this will work. They gave up a lot of assets for it, but that's what you got to do. The only thing, and I will say this always, the only thing I thought was weird is I was like, they got rid of that Walker Kessler kid. I'm like, I saw him play. I'm like, he could be as good as Rudy Gobert one day. And while he's not as good as Rudy Gobert, he's getting pretty damn close already, so I will say that was the one point of contention for me in the trade. The biggest thing for this Timberwolves team that they've done, though, is they gave Anthony Edwards the basketball. He's got the basketball so much more now, and I love it. He's getting to run the offense. It's not a very complicated offense to say so, but you've got good basketball players. You've got 2 elite scorers in Cat and Edwards, and you just need to put dogs on the team with those dudes. I've said the entire time, just put Anthony Edwards on the court with some dogs, and things will go well. Looking at some of the other notes from this, the Mike Conley trade was kind of odd at the time, but he's apparently brought a ton of leadership, and I do have some inside talks with the Timberwolves just through my own connections, and I've heard that Mike Conley is just like, he's their leader, right? And that's what Conley does, right? He's been the leader on most teams that he's been on, so it's awesome to see that. He's a great supplementary piece to the team, right? He can play off ball, he can play on ball, he can space, he can play make, he can defend a little bit. He's getting older, so he's not going to last a ton longer, but this is why I say you need veterans on teams like this that bring the team together. This trio now, which looked confusing before, and I still don't understand why Cat can't figure out how to play elite defense. Not even elite defense, just competent defense. But this trio, who seemed like such a disaster before, looks competent now. And it looks like they could give people some trouble in the playoffs. I do have to wonder what their ceiling is, because I don't think their roster's all that good otherwise. It's great that they have Naz Reid on the team. It's kind of weird that like 3 of their like 4 or 5 best players are centers. It's whatever. Naz Reid's awesome. The rest of their bench kind of weirds me out and everything. I loved the Shake Milton addition. He doesn't really get to do a ton on this team, and I feel like they're kind of holding him back a little bit. But like, it's cool that Nickeil Alexander-Walker's kind of finding a little something here. I'd still like him to be a little bit better. Maybe hit the 3 a little bit more or something, right? But I feel like another move needs to happen to solidify this bench. I feel like you need like another bucket getter on this team. Loser, Jordan Poole and a handful of other young playmakers. Ooh, who are the other young playmakers? But yeah, let's talk Jordan Poole first. So I won't lie to you guys. I thought Jordan Poole was going to come in this year and just get absolute buckets. I figured this team was going to suck, and he was just going to get to chuck and show everybody the skilled offensive player that he is. He became a better playmaker at the end of his Warriors career, right? He had a lot more ball handling responsibilities. I figured, okay, he's the dude now, right? He gets to go get his buckets. He might score 30 points a game this year. Wrong. He's scoring even less than when he was on the Warriors, and his efficiency's fallen off a cliff. I think this Wizards team is a bit fallen victim to not having those savvy vets on the team, right, to keep things in line. We've all seen the clip of Jordan Poole not paying attention in the huddles and stuff. Yeah, guys like Kyle Kuzma, who are just goofy players in general, kind of doing whatever they want. And, you know, a lot of the other guys that play a ton of minutes on this game are Daniel Gafford, that are young, Corey Kispert, that are young, Koulibaly's young, right? Whom else? Denny's young, right? And then you got like Tyus Jones, who's good at steadying the ship, right? But like, there's not a leader on this team, and Jordan Poole's supposed to be the leader. It's not going well. This is why you have to have good leadership, good coaching, and stuff for your good players to actually flourish. Yeah, the other 2 that they're talking about is Scoot Henderson and Cade Cunningham. Yeah, Scoot's had a rough start to it. That team's just bad, man. Like, it doesn't fit what he's trying to do. DeAndre Ayton's in his way the whole time, right? Brogdon takes some of his ball handling duties, which Scoot's not really worth much right now without being a ball handler. And, you know, his game is simple right now. I think Scoot's going to be just fine. I think he's too talented to not work out. I'd be shocked if he didn't. He just seems like he kind of has that dog in him too. But for now, Scoot's struggling. Cade Cunningham, they're exactly right that the supporting cast isn't right. I'm starting to question the coaching a little bit over there. Like, they brought Duren off the bench for a little bit. I don't know if there was a reason why. But, like, Duren's been awesome this year, and they brought him off the bench. They're bringing Jaden Ivey off the bench for some reason for Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley. Like I said, I don't get it. Why did they trade Sadiq Bey for James Wiseman? Like, Sadiq Bey seemed like such a logical fit. He's a good shooter and a good switch defender. I don't know what Cade's supposed to do on a team where nobody can shoot. Hopefully it gets better when Bogdanovich comes back, because he hasn't played, like, any of this year. I don't know if he's back or not yet. So hopefully that helps a little bit, because there's a little bit of spacing. But holy cow, yeah, that team is poorly put together. Winner, oh, of course, another opposite. Tyrese Halliburton and a handful of other young playmakers. Tyrese Halliburton is awesome. In my Dynasty Fantasy Basketball League, I picked up Halliburton, 2 years ago now? And oh my gosh, am I happy I did. I will say it, and I'll be honest. When Tyrese Halliburton got drafted, I didn't know what we were going to get out of him. I was one of those people that questioned the shooting form. I was like, I know it goes in and everything. I think it's a little slow. It has gotten faster. He really gets that ball up pretty quick now. but I was like, I see the playmaking and everything. I don't know if like he's athletic enough to really make plays as a point guard and guard point guards. All of that was wrong. He's figured it out. He is an elite player. He's getting you sometimes like 10, 15 assists with no turnovers. And like, they're like not easy assists either. It's not like he's dumping it off to like good players either. Like there was one year where like Tyus Jones was getting like 5 or 6 assists because he just dumped it down to Cat on the block so many times and Cat just put it up and over people. Like Halliburton's like running this offense and getting it to guys like Buddy Hield who have to be catch and shoot guys, right? Like Miles Turner's not creating his own shot. There's just not another like shot creator on this team. And so he's just like, I'm going to do it all for you guys. I don't remember where the Pacers are in offense anymore. A little bit ago, they were like the #1 offense, which is just crazy when you don't have like that elite of a scorer on your team. But it's all because Halliburton's just running it, man. And hey, credit to the Pacers for making that trade work. And I loved the trade for Halliburton when they did it. And he is going to be their starter point guard and franchise point guard for a long time. Ooh, all right. Had to take a little bathroom break there. Sorry, y'all. The apples just go right through me. Who else are we talking about for other young playmakers in the league? They're talking about Shea Gilgeous. That makes sense. Luka Doncic, obviously. Scotty Barnes, yeah, assuming a lot more ball handling responsibilities this year. He's been great. Maxey, obviously awesome. Şengün, what did we call these? Young playmakers. Okay, fair enough. Then we can consider Şengün and LaMelo Ball, who unfortunately just went down with an injury. Hopefully he's okay. He's had a lot of lower extremity injuries so far in his career. Hope he's okay. But yeah, no, LaMelo's been great so far this year as well. Loser, Denver Nuggets championship mojo. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. So basically, they're saying the team is bad on the road, and they were so good at the end of last year. Obviously, Jamal Murray's been hurt. Jokic has been still a phenomenal player. His wins above replacement. He's league leading right now, which is very good. But yeah, when they come off, they've obviously lost a lot off their bench by losing guys like Bruce Brown, right? Jeff Green's not on the team anymore. Those are important players on this team. I even feel like Thomas Bryant would have had a nice role for them this year, but he's in Miami now. I'm not like too worried about the Nuggets. At the end of the day, they did just win a championship, and hopefully when they get Murray back, things will be a little bit better. If you want to look at a couple things where players can improve, and again, this will help when Murray comes back, but Michael Porter Jr. could probably be a little more effective, and he could probably try to do a little bit more on the court than just be Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter. And Aaron Gordon just hasn't been very effective. His defensive numbers still look fine, but offensively, he's been a little rough this year, especially in the shooting department, which he was never elite at to begin with. But finding ways to improve like that and just stepping up when your next best player goes down is kind of what you have to do if you want to stay in contention. Next winner, James Harden, or the post-James Harden Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, they've certainly been a lot better since he dipped, huh? Obviously, Tyrese Maxey has been phenomenal from them. I'll be curious to see how much longer he can keep up the hot streak. I do feel like people are going to start to key in on him a little bit because there isn't really anyone else in the team that's really giving you tough buckets like he is. Like Tobias Harris can go get you some of those, but he's not someone you have to game plan for a ton. Eventually, people are just going to key in on Maxey because Embiid's not doing too much complicated stuff on the court, so they're going to say, okay, well, we can't necessarily stop Embiid anyway, so how can we slow Tyrese Maxey down? And so I'll be curious to see what happens once people kind of start to attack him a little bit more. Obviously, as far as the players they brought in, the guys like Covington, right, and like Marcus Morris, those guys have been a nice contributing factor to their defense and everything because they can just switch a lot of things, which is nice, and they're all very capable shooters, which is what you want around Joel Embiid. They're going to look to make another move at some point, whether that's like a Zach LaVine or whoever else becomes available for this team. Having another scorer and someone that can kind of take the ball off the dribble is going to be pretty critical to them. Loser, Milwaukee Bucks defense, though it might not matter. I don't even necessarily want to read what they have to say about this so far. The Bucks defense is getting a lot better now that they've switched into kind of like the drop coverage that the vets on the team said that they wanted to with Brook Lopez. Lillard's starting to figure it out a little bit more, but the fact that it doesn't matter is probably true. They've been winning a ton of games recently. The Dame Giannis effect is in full effect now. They are incredibly tough to stop. I think as long as Milwaukee continues to thrive behind Dame and Giannis on offense, as long as they can come back to league average with defense, I think they're going to be in title contention. Because at the end of the day, come playoff time, like defensive strategies are going to be more fine-tuned anyway, so hopefully Coach can actually do that because that's something they didn't have in Coach Bud before, someone that could make adjustments for whatever reason. And when you have guys like Brook Lopez and Giannis roaming the paint, it's going to be pretty tough for teams to go get buckets. and nobody's stopping Lillard and Giannis offensively. Next winner, just the Boston Celtics in general. Yep, I'd say this is true. This is pretty easy to go through. The teams looked awesome. Drew Holiday is just basically being whatever he needs to be for the Celtics. Guard the best player every night, score if you need to, play make if you need to. Porzingis is getting rebounds, blocking shots, hitting threes. Just he's an awesome third option. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown doing their thing. Al Horford just being a solid vet on the team. Shout out Sam Hauser off the bench, just being a wing that can light it up from three. That's what you need on these teams. This team is by far the most talented in the NBA, and that's even more so than like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant in Phoenix. Like, this team is just so stupid talented, like 1 through like 6 or 7, that, man, it is going to be tough to stop this team. Very tough. This is an interesting one. Loser, Victor Wembanyama's Rookie of the Year case for now. So I'm going to call some BS on this one. Like, yes, Chet is playing very, very well. I know his defense is like in the whatever percentile. It's like 96 or 98 or something like that. Wembanyama's looked really, really good. He looks like the generational talent and everything. People will say, oh, he's turning the ball over so much and everything. Oh, and he's doing this. He looks a little clumsy at times. Y'all, all rookies need to slow the game down and everything. The difference with Chet is Chet has like 3 or 4 other potential future all-stars on his team that are already doing everything else for him. Teams don't get to key in on him. Wembanyama's the #1 player on the scouting report every week for the Spurs. Like, he has to do ball handling responsibilities because they don't have a point guard. Like, he has to step out and shoot. He's got to defend everybody, right? Like, he just has a lot more on his plate. The game is going to slow down for him. His talent is high, and the fact that he's getting you, let's take a look at his numbers. He's getting you 19 points a game and 9 rebounds with 2.5 blocks. I know the turnovers are high and everything. It's fine. It's totally fine. Like, he's gonna be okay, y'all. Like, he's having a phenomenal rookie year. I get Chet's doing well, but no, it's just not correct. And can we just all come together and say that this Jeremy Sohan point guard thing doesn't make any sense? Can we please start Trey Jones again and move Sohan back to like the 4 or something like that, or come off the bench or something? I don't quite understand it. It's making everything so much harder for Wembanyama. So can we just do that? And can we put Devin Vassell back in the starting lineup? I know he chucks a lot, but like, somebody's got to score on this team. So it doesn't need to be Branham in the starting lineup. So Pop, we're calling Pop out a little bit. We got to make some adjustments. Winner, LeBron James and the other aging faces of the NBA. Okay, so before I even read this, I got a little theory. I think that young basketball players, and I'm going to sound like an old head real quick, are coming into the league with so much less basketball smarts than they used to. I've talked to a lot of like sports psychologists about this and stuff, and you know, I watch a lot of like high school basketball in my local area and stuff, and I go, wow, this kid's going to Ohio State, this kid's going to so and so, right, or whatever, and I'm like, you know, why these guys don't look that good? I can still keep up with these dudes, and I'm a little bit washed at this point. But I think that, and sports psychologists have kind of confirmed this theory with me, is that they feel that kids aren't learning the game at the same way that like maybe you and I, depending on your age watching this, learn the game. We grew up watching full basketball games and everything. These kids grew up watching highlights. These kids all got crazy layup packages, and they all have step back threes and everything. But none of them can like dribble. None of them know how to backdoor cut. None of them can like outsmart somebody. So these older dudes in the NBA that are just so much smarter than them and that are still incredibly talented are going to last so much longer because these kids coming into the game can't figure out how to stop them. And so I think that's very interesting, but I'm very curious to see who else they're talking about. Yeah, okay, this is kind of what I figured. They're just talking about KD and Steph as well, who are still dominating into their like mid to late 30s and everything. And yes, let's talk about LeBron being the oldest player in basketball, and he's still one of the best players in the league, and it's not even close. AD's not the best player on that team. It's LeBron. It's not even close. It's just phenomenal what he's doing, and I'm, as a Bulls fan who hated seeing LeBron James all the time, don't hate him as a person, obviously, just hated going up and losing against him every year. I'm glad that I just get to enjoy these years of seeing it, man, because there's just nobody like LeBron James. This one's just goofy. Winner, he got what he wanted, and loser, but at what cost? James Harden. I'm going to keep this one pretty short and sweet with the Clippers. I don't know what to do with like this core of players. I don't know what's supposed to happen between all these dudes that like to be ball dominant, except for Paul George, who can kind of just do whatever he needs to do. But like, Harden wants to have the ball, Kawhi wants to have the ball, Westbrook wants to have the ball, and they're all at their best when they have the ball. since Harden's come to the team, Westbrook's like completely fallen off a cliff, which sucks because he was having a pretty good start to the season. And this whole Clippers team is just so like much trying to figure out how can we make James Harden happy and everything, because they probably know he's a ticking time bomb of wanting to go somewhere else. But like, with Zubats being out too and everything, or is it Zubats or Mason Plumlee? I can't even remember who's hurt at this point. But they just picked up Daniel Tice because they need another center or whatever on the roster. But you've got all these names. They just don't fit. It's like the Bulls again, but a more talented Bulls. Stop putting players together that don't fit. I don't get it. You didn't give up a whole ton to get him, I guess. But, like, I don't know how you're supposed to win with this roster unless people make some serious changes to their game. Final, the winner, just the NBA. Y'all, this has been a fun NBA season. They've got the picture of the in-season tournament court here. Shout out the Timberwolves court, one of the few ones that actually look really good. I gotta go see a Timberwolves game. I'm in Minneapolis, so I gotta go see that. The NBA's just been more competitive this year. You see such a small gap between like the best and worst teams compared to normal league standards this year. Like the Hornets are like in every game. The Raptors are like in every game, right? Unless you're the Bulls. The Bulls just suck. But that just is what it is, right? Like teams are competitive. Teams are playing hard. There's so much talent in the league. This is just what the NBA needed to say, okay, we need to expand, add like 2 more teams to the league because there's so many good players. We need to space them out just a little bit more. That could be a whole nother video where we talk about that. If I had to guess, it's probably Seattle and Vegas, right? LeBron is probably going to be what causes that. They want LeBron to own the team in Vegas. That makes a ton of sense, but the NBA is just in great hands right now. And we don't even have some of our best players playing at the moment, too. Like, we're missing the Ja Morants of the world, right? I love that the NBA is trying to keep themselves relevant with the rest of the world and everything. They're making things better. The play-in tournaments have been awesome. I love the new, like, all-star formats and stuff. So the scoring and everything. I think the in-season tournament, I can't wait, honestly. The players are playing hard for it. I want to see people compete for this little trophy and everything and this money. I'm excited, man. I love basketball right now. I just wish my team was better. Can we just do something about the Bulls? Can they just start trading people? I'll be locked in the rest of the season. I'll watch all the Bulls games if they trade all those dudes just to see who else is on the team. I just can't watch who's there right now. But anyway, NBA's in great hands. And hey, those are the winners and losers so far of the NBA season. Feel free to leave a comment of other articles or something you guys want me to go over, whatever other basketball topics you want me to go over. I've got a lot of connections throughout the league and throughout college basketball as well, so I'm always happy to provide my insight. But thanks to you guys as well. We just crossed like 150 subs or whatever. My goal was like 100 when I started this thing like 2 months ago after the first year. In about 2 months, like I said, already 150. So thank you guys. Seriously, it means the world. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.